Hi there, welcome to today's Business Growth Club show. We are so pleased to have you here. The theme is growth marketing.
We're talking about actions and consequences today.
It's all about purpose.
Driving business growth with using KPIs.
We're talking money mindset.
The Growth Club, I mean, not to oversell it, but it's so well organised. So yeah, it was totally invaluable.
The Growth Club, coupled alongside with the Masters that I'm doing at Strategic Leadership at the moment, both of those things happening collectively have definitely transformed, and the Growth Club did have a massive impact for our business.
What is it that attracted you to come to the Growth Club in the first place? Let me just start off with that.
Well, because it was the two of you, basically.
Hiya, welcome to the show. Oh, we had a few Gremlins. Gremlins is a Christmas movie, isn't it?
Dangerous to have technology and Mahmood mix in the same room.
Yeah, just don't pour water on him. Let it be after midnight, and I don't know, let him out in the sunshine. I can't remember what the things are. But hello, anyway, welcome to the Business Growth Club show. It is fantastic to have you here. We hope you have had a brilliant Christmas, a relaxing Christmas, a good Christmas, even if it's been quite a different one for us this year. But we're here with you between Christmas and New Year, and it's good to see you. So whether or not you're watching on replay or whether you're watching live with us right now, let us have your comments. Let us know how you're getting on, what sort of Christmas you've had, and what you're looking forward to next year. We've got a fun show planned, haven't we, Mahmood, tonight?
Yeah, it's been brilliant, actually. I think it's been really good when we thought about the theme for the last one of the show, in common with everybody else probably this time of year, looking back, looking at what's been going on in the world in 2020, thinking about trends. We've had some fun trying to sort of distill out some themes and threads that will help people for next year. And there were some few fascinating facts that we came across that I have to say even I wasn't fully aware of, but I think it's going to be a brilliant show. We are the gift that keeps giving.
Well, I hope we are. I think we are. So we're going to have fun with the quiz anyway, see how many of the questions that you know. So we're hoping that you'll join in with us on the quiz. But this isn't all about looking back on a year,
Absolutely
just
not.
thinking about COVID, just thinking about Brexit. Loads more has happened in 2020 as well. And it's about thinking, how's the world changing? What's going to be happening and going on next year? And what sort of things do we all need to factor into our business plans? So let's get started. So what are your highlights of the year then of 2020, Mahmood? Apart from us working together, of course.
Well, actually, to be fair, that is a good highlight for me. 26 years coming up to in business. So for me, it's been a wonderful year in terms of actually finding a partnership that clicks and connects. I think the highlight of this year is, I think there's two or three things. One, on a personal level, apart from obviously teaming up with you, Joe, is about how wonderful the human spirit actually is. So not just for my own team, but not for my own clients, but for people I interact with. Even though it's been a real slap in the face with a wet fish in certain circles, even though it's been really quite daunting and overwhelming in other circles, I'm just really amazed and impressed about how human fortitude steps through. So that's been a really great takeaway. I think what this year has also shown me personally is that we talk about trends, we look at the past, we look at the present, and I think certain things have come back into the fore for business disciplines, but things that have happened this year, I think have been accelerated as opposed to, oh my gosh, nobody saw that one coming. So what was going to happen over the next few years, I think it's just accelerated and happened at a much faster timescale.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a year of learning. I think a year of community for sure. And I think I've really actually enjoyed and valued how the business community has come together and supported each other, and the support actually here on social has been fantastic. And of course, I've loved working with you too, and I'm looking forward to our next Business Growth Club next year. I think other things for me, it was 10 years in business and the real opportunity to maximise going digital, because I've been doing digital stuff anyway in terms of work internationally, but having to go to a lot of places, a lot of venues in person and travel. And actually, it's made the world readier for a lot more digital intervention, which means you can reach more people and do more stuff. So there's been some positives, as well as it being a really challenging year. There's also been some positives, which I think we should take away from the year, really. And it's also been a year of business opportunity. There have been some good business stories, haven't there, that have made the news this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right to say that, in terms, even though we human beings have a tendency to look at the negative and things that haven't worked so well, there's been also a lot of positive opportunity. I suppose opportunity is positive by nature, but there's been a lot of opportunity that's been very positive. Have you got a particular highlight yourself, Jo?
Yeah, I think it's just interesting. I mean, I'm always interested in, anything that's innovative, that's daring, that's really, pushing the boundaries. And I think it was brilliant that we had SpaceX this year, with the first private company making that trip successfully into space. 64 days in space, astronauts, 2 astronauts spending time there, both arriving back safely. And it's great to see private enterprise pushing the boundaries and really, being truly innovative and truly exploring and just discovering stuff. So I was excited about that.
I mean, I think that was the reusable rockets and the reusable hardware that came from that. I mean, I'm obviously in the city, which is my adopted city, which is very known for its space expertise, in Leicester. So I think they were sort of ringing out the chimes there as well. So I think Tesla's done well. So he's put his money where his mouth is. He's invested in it. And what do you think? Do you think that idea of regular trips to the moon and outer space for certain sections of society is more of a reality now?
I think so. I think it will just come over time, won't it? It's about, and this is what the great innovators and the great minds do, is they think beyond what the rest of us think is possible, but they know is achievable. And there's got to be some sort of learning curve and discovery and a few failures on the way. That's part of it. But I think even when things go wrong, they say, well, that we've learned something from it. So yeah, it's going to happen, isn't it? And those with the foresight and the cash and the insights to invest, I think will do really well over the long term. But I think as well, one thing that I suppose does worry me about space exploration is I just hope that we clean up our act with climate change and our impact, our footprint on the world here, before we just go and spread it elsewhere around the universe. But I
mean, that's certainly been a talking point. I know there's talk about a lot of rubbish, debris in space as such, but I think there's been as well as technological advances, I've noticed a big cultural change and a behavioural change in people, whether it comes to the attitudes to climate, as you just said, whether it comes to the attitudes towards food consumption. Definitely we've seen a spike and a growth in terms of more people eating plant-based diets, vegetarianism. I think there's about 100 million vegetarians in the world now, brackets vegans, that mixing those two together. And even some of the big boys now, the big meat producing companies, the big supermarkets are now embracing it. So we've gone from a fad of a few years ago to something now that's entering the mainstream with some vigour.
Yeah, and that's climate change related. It's also health related. And I've been vegan for some time this year, but I was vegetarian mostly before that. But actually, I've become more so as the products have become more available and there's more choice, then it's been easier to be a bit more purist about my approach. So I've been enjoying that. And that's the cycle, really. That's the cycle we all need to look out for in business is what's changing. How can we get on the forefront of that change? How can we get some first, or if not first, early mover advantage? And we saw Rachel do that, didn't we, from Nut and Noggin with her vegan free shampoo bar, which is an incredible product. And I'm sure she's been doing really well over the Christmas period with those. So yeah, it's good. It's about staying switched on, and we've had to be more switched on than ever this year as well. So what else has been going on? Well, I think big tech has continued to dominate the business side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've had a great year with companies like Zoom, and Microsoft Teams. The usage really taking off massively. A tool I use, Mentimeter, which is an online polling tool. I think you use it as well.
Not as much as you do, but I'm dipping into that.
Yeah, and tools such as StreamYard, Ecamm Live, the things that we use to go live, are doing really, really well with all the digital remote working, the virtual events that we're doing. So a good year for tech, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's been an interesting one as well, because I think with all new tools and techniques and resources out there, there's also a massive learning curve of people having to learn to adapt them and learn to use them. It was interesting. I was doing a review of the art sector, because obviously in terms of, I know we're going to be talking about it later on, but in terms of the tech world now coming into cinema, theatre, dancing and all the rest of it, people have also had to learn how to do what they've done in person and offline. And there are different skill sets that are required there as well, which obviously for me is another opportunity for people out there. It's also another learning curve exercise that you've got to do. There was an interesting stat I read about Netflix. If you think about all this global uptake in Zoom, Microsoft Teams, StreamYard, Ecamm and all the rest of it, it had a big pressure on the internet infrastructure and the demand on internet resources there. I think Netflix actually downgraded the quality of their videos for streaming just to be able to cope with that uptake demand there as well, which I thought was quite an interesting statistic and something I didn't even think about.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi locally has got a lot better, so that there have been some Wi-Fi infrastructure upgrades, although it does sort of kick in with problems around about 5 o'clock, as I don't know what neighbours are doing. There's something clearly going on. So yeah, it's been a really interesting year. And you mentioned Tesla earlier. I think they are, just check this out, just make sure I get this right, now worth more. Tesla's now worth more than the largest 9 auto manufacturers in the world combined, which is surpassing Toyota, Volkswagen and Honda. So, we just see the way the world's going. Oil prices were negative for the first time ever this year as well. You had to, people were paying to get oil taken off the hands. And we've seen some celebrity entrepreneurship with Brad Pitt's champagne brand and Meghan and her vegan coffee product as well. So it's been an interesting year, an enterprising year as well, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to note that you use the word celebrities getting in on the act. Just to be fair, they've got the resources, they've got the investment, they've got people behind them. There was a bit of backlash I read as well, that in terms of some of the celebrities coming out, certainly in the arts world, showing solidarity with their colleagues here. It looked a bit empty when they were talking from their villas about how they were sharing the pain of everybody else here. But so what it shows me actually is that I think, was it this year the Queen came on Instagram, social media for the first time?
I don't know, is it?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know if that's one of our quiz questions, but yeah, I think it was the first year the Queen came on board. So you've got social media now being taken up as a tool of communication much more actively. And I think you can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think digitisation, for me, that was probably one of the biggest takeaways this year, is where we were moving as a society in terms of consuming, delivering services, engaging with the rest of the world. It's basically accelerated, and I think it's brought it forward by about 5 years or so to where we are now.
Well, that's the thing with social, is you can actually get direct to your audience, can't you? So, and Trump's been doing that through Twitter, for good or for bad, depending on which way you look at it, for quite a long time. Just cuts out the middle people and goes straight to followers and just tweets whatever is on his mind. So yeah, very, very direct, very responsive. But an interesting year, and one I think that we'll move forwards from, and will shape the future and will shape what we need to think about in business plans. So, I think the first thing that you've mentioned in terms of things to think about for 2021 are digital, and the digital trends here to stay. And that's not just using Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's about digital payment, it's about e-commerce, it's online, even takeaway orders from little local restaurants that, you wouldn't have thought would have had anything digital have got apps and things that they're, website presence that they're using for that. So digital is definitely here to stay. And that's a good thing because the barriers to entry are pretty low. It can really drive efficiency and it can help with customer connection as well. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting point about barriers to entry. If the barriers to entry are relatively low, I think I read a statistic now. If going back years and years ago, the old bricks and mortar sort of banking industry needed a certain volume of clients to be sustainable. Now that's cut; it's a fraction of that. Barriers to entry are low, which means the competitive nature is much more intense as a result. So therefore, people have just got to be on their game, I think, in terms of trying to be unique, focusing on those, what customers value, like customer service, deliverability. But it's all round. I think there's thousands and hundreds of thousands of businesses out there that will operate from a virtual space, won't be operating from, offices as such. Meeting rooms can be done virtually. There's still a need, obviously, for that human interaction here. But, the whole business model is changing now.
Yeah, and it's convenience. I'm just about to start work and engage a service provider who's in San Diego, and we've done everything on email so far. Booked the appointments to talk to each other online through Calendly, pick a slot, and then we're going to be Zooming tomorrow evening. So it just really engages, so many more people, creates so many more opportunities, I think. So get on the digital side of things and think about how you can digitize your business. If you're not sure what that looks like, particularly when it comes to e-commerce, taking your products and services online, maybe rejigging the back of house stuff so you can reduce your paperwork and all those sorts of things. If you think that there's something in that and you're not sure how to go about it or where to start, then get in touch with us and we can help you with that. We can certainly help you with that through the Business Growth Club when we launch in January.
So on that point then, Jo, do you, in your experience then, so if we think about the Business Growth Club, which we're going to pick up in 25th January next year, we had a good cohort of businesses coming on board last time. I think it was a mixture of, traditional as well as digital. Do you see much difference in terms of the approach for business planning for a digital-based business and a sort of a conventional in-person brick-based business?
No, and what I'm actually seeing, and I think you're probably seeing it too, are more hybrid models. So, and I think by being a hybrid of some traditional and some digital, in many ways, that's the best of both worlds because it protects against all sorts of different circumstances. The problem that many businesses have had this year is that they've relied on people physically entering premises, coming through the door. And when people can't do that anymore, then they've had to think really quickly about what they can do digitally and how they're going to get an online audience, how they're going to get that email list of clients and potential clients to communicate with. So actually, if you've got a presence in both, I think that's really important, but the business planning principles are exactly the same.
100%. And I think if anything, I would probably say that there are certain business disciplines which are actually much more required in a digital business. So if I think about in terms of having good systems, obviously your infrastructure needs to be spot on. If you've got bad systems, whatever technology you've got is just going to make it worse. You've got to really be able to think acute in terms of the marketing. You've got a better marketing mix there to adhere to. I think if anything, planning is probably, because it's a much more competitive, intense environment, planning probably raises its prominence and plays a much more important role.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's been really fantastic to work with some of our Business Growth Club members this year and see them grow and really develop that confidence online and start getting some fantastic results from their online activities. And just getting that mix right, that resilient mix of how they're doing business and that the business model creation for how they're going to operate. So we enjoyed doing that. I think we've had some really great successes through our Business Growth Club members and their business models. So it'd be good, if you're looking for help, you're watching, listening, and you're looking for help with that next year, then get in touch with us. We've got the link here for you as well.
I love the way you express the business model idea, and I think certainly it's probably putting it in a different way. But business models, like the old pre-COVID business models, aren't really it's not universal. There are certain businesses that will function the same because they're not suited for digital here. But certainly those pre-COVID models need to be re-looked at and aren't necessarily going to be suitable, for the 2021 and beyond.
Yeah. And I think we're all, one of the things that has happened this year is that many people have taken a step back and really thought about what's important, what they want to be doing, what they don't want to be doing. And the digital, the tech, the business model innovation, or the business model rethink can help with that, in terms of just taking away time that doesn't need to be spent doing stuff that doesn't need to be done that way. That it can really help just free up loads of time for doing other things, or maybe having a bit more time off. And I think that's been really important to many people as well this year. They have appreciated the opportunity to stop and pause, even though it's been very difficult. I know businesses in the most challenging of circumstances, the owners have said, well, it's been incredibly tougher than I've ever known it, but it's done me so much good to just stop and think and have some time to really catch up with myself, and then get ready, get match fit and go again.
I mean, I don't know how many episodes ago we did it, because I think we did on a previous broadcast, we looked at business resilience and in terms of learning the lessons from this current situation to take it forward into 2021 and beyond. And I think we're both of the mindset that nobody, I think you mentioned Bill Gates perhaps, maybe did, nobody could have predicted exactly what would have happened this year. But actually, a resilient business means that you're geared up and adaptable to cope with change of landscapes.
Yeah. And, people could predict that something like this was going to happen round about now. It was predicted. Nobody could predict that it would be this particular virus at this particular time, and it would spread in this particular way. But the cycle of viruses and the way that the world moves, many experts have said, actually, this was foreseeable. This was actually in some scenario plans and some continuity plans, but we actually never really thought it was going to happen. And I think it's that inertia that's led to a lot of stuff as well. So another trend for 2021 that started this year is that we're becoming more localized, and that's for obvious reasons. We're traveling less far, and I think also we tend to feel safer when we're somewhere that we know, and we know how it operates. But corner shops and independent grocery stores have seen a 63% rise in trade.
That's a good hike.
Lockdown, and that's from The Guardian, so that's from a good source, which is great, because those independents and those corner shops are so often competing with the big players. So it's good to see them, and they've served their communities really well. So if you're watching and you're a shop owner, or you're related to one, the backbone of Britain are our corner shops.
Well, we are a nation of shopkeepers. If you go back to Napoleon Bonaparte and all the rest of it, I think on top of that is, I think the local community, the shopkeepers that done really well. What have they done? They've not just said we'll open our doors and come on in, but they've actually showcased their customer service, showcased that even though their pricing may not be the same as a big conglomerate, a big chain, there's other things that adding to that customer experience here. People probably didn't even realise they were on their own doorsteps now, and it's that customer service, that human interaction, that being able to get something that's without having to worry driving into town. Doing those lessons is things that reinforce that, even though the price may not be the cheapest, it's the overall service offering, which sticks with the customer.
And getting the range in as well, and being, I think we've become more community focused, as we said earlier this year. So corner shops, independents are really at the heart of communities as well, which is and actually some of the bigger retailers have done a cracking job as well. And we shouldn't forget the key workers in the stores that have been there, staying open when the rest of us have been in lockdown, serving us, making sure we've got shelves stacked with food, and people on the checkouts and so on to keep us going. But there's a lot more money going into cycling and walking in the UK as well. So there were some sort of climate change emissions benefits from us all staying more local, and cash is fast becoming a thing of the past.
How do you find that yourself, Joe? And are you somebody who likes carrying cash, or are you like the Queen who prefers?
No, I've never got any cash. The only time I use cash is when I go to the hairdressers to say thank you to my hairdresser, because he does go out of his way to look after me and make me feel comfortable and all of those things. But now I think the only thing about not spending cash is it feels like you're not spending real money. I think that's the only risk of a cashless society. But having said that, as long as the fraud prevention's in place, it's a good way of operating. It's a streamlined way of operating, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, a personal point of view, it's a psychological thing. But in terms of cash being moved, I mean, it's an expensive commodity to move around. It's expensive in terms of banking fees and bank charges. It's a high risk. It's there is an element of fraud that leaks into the system. From a personal level, I do like the psychological fact of having money in my wallet and carrying that around. But I've definitely seen it from clients and everybody else here. Cash is vastly, as a physical commodity, is just disappearing, and that's again digitization, digital world coming into fore.
Fortunately, going the same way as checks. I've never been keen on checks, but we are making fewer cash payments. What that is leading to is an increase in cyber crime and in accounts getting hacked and all of that. So we still need to be careful. There still is fraud, but actually, I think that fraud is possibly easier to detect because there's more of a trace.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people just being generally more careful with what they're spending money on and how much. I think overall this year. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I think I've noticed on a personal as well as a business thing, and I've got this phrase that I like, which is called challenging costs. You can call it challenging costs, whether something adds value to what you're doing here, and even just people connecting more so with their bank statements and looking at them, thinking, I'm not quite sure what this is going out for. I know it sounds quite ridiculous that people could be spending money and not aware of it. But, direct debits that set up, standing orders, we accidentally subscribe to something. And I think people have just literally reviewed what their spending patterns are and actually asked themselves that question. What is this? Do I need it? Does it add any value to my life or my business? And I think that psychology, that approach of challenging costs all the time is something we should do. Doesn't mean you slash and burn, but you've got to ask what contribution it's making. I think definitely I'm seeing a moving cycle and a culture of people actually looking more closely at what's going out the door for them.
And we need to be mindful of that when we're thinking about our customers. So I've done some work this year with the University of Lancaster on innovation with businesses, with small businesses. And Angela, the lady from one of the people I work with at Lancaster, has got a great sort of philosophy, which is when somebody is looking at their bank statement and seeing that cost go out for the services you provide, ideally you want them to be feeling really pleased that they've spent that money and that they're spending that money on what you do, because it adds so much value, or it takes so much hassle away for them, or it contributes something. That's what we all need to, in business, that's what we all need to be creating, is that sense that actually people are to an extent pleased to pay for what we do because we're genuinely contributing value. And I think if we can do that and continue to do that and change how we support our customers as our customers' needs and wants change, then that's a really good thing for resilience as well. So people are being more careful about spending money and how they're spending it. There's still some uncertainty out there as well. So I think that will continue, which brings us on to the fifth trend out of our 5 trends, which is relationship management.
Before we dive into that, Jo, can I just pick up a small point? I think that's a great thing that you talk about that's what you want people to feel when they're looking at that. But I also think that businesses have got to be very careful as they're gearing up for 2021. As they think about what plans they're going to implement, is they also need to move their own mindsets to not always look at things as costs, but look at having to invest time and money in actually to get where they want to as well. Because I think you can be too cautious, shall we say, but you do need to invest to actually get where you want.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is looking at it from the side of the person who's spending the money and
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
investing. And I'm saying if you're the person who someone is spending money with, then it's about creating, making sure you're creating value so that the person, when they're reviewing their expenditure, sees that for the investment it absolutely is. So I'd love to know what you think as well. If when you're watching, then do stick us a comment in and let us know how you're finding things. But relationship management is going to continue to be really key through 2021. It's about staying close to people, looking after each other, and I think that's not just customers, but it's about suppliers, it's about the key people, the employees, virtual team members who help you out, contacts within your industry. It's staying close and looking after each other and supporting each other. I think that will continue into 2021 as well. So should we do our quiz?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So, are you going to do a drum roll? And
I don't know if we've got any drum roll music.
I think that's bad planning on my part. I thought to get some drum roll music. So here's question one.
That was my drum roll.
I was very impressed actually there.
Really bad.
I'll bring the cymbals on. So what's that saying?
So how this is going to work, we've got some questions and we're going to stick them up and we'd like to hear your answers in the comments. So it's just for fun and it's just on stuff that has happened in 2021. And we might send a prize. We might send a prize to anyone who is a really keen participant. So let us know what you think. And Mahmood, I know you've seen some of these.
I have.
If you can remember some of the answers, okay?
Are we allowed to share the answers now, or?
Well, we're going to go through the questions first,
and
then we'll have a chat, and then we'll have a look at the answers. So the first one then is, here we go.
Which famous?
I'm new on the buttons today. It's the first time I've been allowed to press the buttons. It's only because I've not had access to them before. So the first question is, which famous star helped fund the development of the Moderna coronavirus vaccine? And how much did the star donate? So that's a two-pronged question. Okay.
Is it permitted to give clues, or shall we just leave it as it is?
I think we'll leave it as it is and tell us if you're struggling with it. Tell us if you need a clue. And if you need a clue, then we might give you a clue. But this is really good because this is someone who's, although as a star, singing and acting, is also a real entrepreneur. And, and it's great when you make money in business and then you can help with that money to do something really good and really positive.
I admire this person. I've actually seen them interviewed on many an occasion. I know their backstory, and I think it's. I think you'd be hard pushed not to have a lot of admiration for this individual.
Yeah, very, 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 very likable person. So, question number one then: which famous star helped fund the development of the new vaccine, and how much did they invest? Do you want to do? I'll click on question two. Do you want to do question two?
Yeah, fine. And you are allowed to ask a friend. You are allowed to ask your next door neighbour. You are allowed to look it up on the internet. Obviously, see if you know it. So that's fantastic. Let's go for question number two. Drum roll number two.
Yeah.
So between April and June, by how much did the number of people claiming on their car insurance fall? And this comes direct quoted from the Association of British Insurers, and we know they don't fib, so it's got to be a real statistic. So between April and June, by how much did the number of people claiming on their car insurance fall? And I'd ideally like the answer expressed as a percentage. Nearest whole number is perfectly acceptable, unless you want to do it to 15 places of decimals.
You can tell who's a numbers person, can't you?
You can tell who's got no friends.
We'll go through them and then we'll go through the answers. So whether you're watching on replay, you'll still get the answers. It's fine. You're not going to leave you hanging without knowing what the answers to these compelling questions are. Shall I go next then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you sort of hinted at this earlier in the show when you were talking about the Queen. But on which social media platform did Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announce they were stepping down from as senior royals? Okay, so on which social media platform did Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announce they were stepping down as senior royals? If you know the answer, or you think you might know it, or you want to guess, or even if you want to give us a comedy guess, as long as it's reasonably repeatable and clean, we're happy. We're happy to, and you can cough in the audience and you can ask a friend, as Mahmood says. So that's question number 3.
We won't be taking cards in, by the way, so that's fine. Question number 4, and let's hit the drum roll. Name the scheme that ran throughout August to encourage people to enjoy meals in restaurants, cafes, and pubs. It was very well subscribed to. A number of my own clients, other people that I know, took advantage of this scheme, so there's a really good positive impact there. So what's the name of the scheme that ran throughout August to encourage people to enjoy meals in restaurants, cafes and pubs? And to be fair, I know the government gets a lot of stick, a lot of criticism, but in terms of the speed of which the initial financial support came out, certainly in the UK and around the world for COVID, I think you've got to admire not just the central government, but all the institutions that actually managed to get things configured up and ready to distribute those funds. So name the scheme that ran throughout August to encourage people to enjoy meals, restaurants, cafes and pubs.
Okay, now we've got question number 5 of 6 coming up, and I bet you know this one. Radio 1 refused to play the original version of which popular Christmas song due to its controversial lyrics?
My hat went off to you earlier on, because I didn't actually know the answer to this question. It just shows how young and trendy you are, Joe.
Yeah. And are the lyrics controversial? Well, I'm not going to get into the controversy of whether they're controversial or not. It's all down to interpretation, isn't it? And I guess words mean different things over time. It's a changing use of language. And I think the guy who wrote and sang the song, he was happy for it to be changed because he didn't want to fall out with anybody because it's a Christmas song, which was a good attitude, I thought. Okay, final one then, Mahmood, over to you.
Drum roll. Da, 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 da. Now, again, this is another 2-part or 2-pronged question. Approximately, how many websites are there? And this is roughly speaking when I checked it today. So give or take a few thousand in up to about December 20. How many websites are there in the world? And the second part of the question, how many of them are active?
Okay, so I was blown away when I heard the number. More blown away when I did the calculation to think about how many were inactive. And I wonder if they're all in Ripon, clogging up my internet speed.
If you're one of these people, we can't tell you what the number is in Ripon, please get off the internet and the website and leave it for people like Joe to actually enjoy it. Before we give the answers, Joe, I think we've intimated it. When we talk about trends that people plug into, remember, the past isn't necessarily a predictor of the future, but it's getting a feeling for what's going on, the way the world is moving. And the macro, the big things on the big picture, do trickle down, do have an impact on micro businesses. Yeah. The other thing as well, we've intimated it, is about social factors. So climate change, we had the Black Lives Movement that happened. There is a definite sea change in people's attitudes towards businesses, how they see that. And what that means is that as a business owner, you need to take, you don't have to, you can ignore us completely, but you should take those things on board if you want to have a sustainable, thriving, growing business.
Yeah. Need to avoid something called strategic drift at all costs, which is where your business drifts away from what's actually going on in the world out there and what people really want and need. And it can be really painful to get back on track if you let that go too far for too long. So just small changes, ongoing changes regularly, always nudging in the direction of the market is the way to be, for sure. Sometimes the market has a big change and we need to step up and deal with that, of course, but keep moving forward, keep adapting, keep evolving. So shall we do the answers then?
Yeah, I think we should do it. I hope it doesn't sound too tacky. Well, obviously, mine and Joe's answer to help you solve all these issues, which we'll mention at the end, is you need to access a good resource. You've got two great humans here talking to you about business growth. You need to tap into that sort of growth club mentality to actually help power your business through. So that's our little plug, which I'm just going to mention before we dive into the answers.
Yeah, some of our growth club members have described us as being non-executive directors of your business that you can just extract wisdom, support, critical challenge from, and much more besides. Which is great.
I'll take that. So let's go for number one.
This is Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton donated $1 million to help with the development of the Moderna COVID coronavirus vaccine. So if you got that right, let us know, and you get a point. If you did well in the quiz, even if you've not entered your answers in the comments, tell us anyway, because we still might send you a little treat.
If you had Dolly, by the way, or Mrs. Parton or Miss Parton, we'll allow that. And I should have actually had some Dolly Parton music to play as well, but next time.
We should. Anyway. So number two. What was
question two? We wanted this in percentage terms. So again, give yourself a factor of plus or minus 0.3% within that. But the answer is 48%, which is an incredible drop here. Now, I'm going to explain the reasons, but that's a 48% drop. So if you got that answer correct, give yourself a point. So that means you could have 2 points so far. If you didn't get it right, we won't know. So obviously mark it correctly.
Should we say 3 points? Because the Dolly Parton one, there was a question about how much, which was $1 million.
So perhaps 2 points, so a point for each part.
Yeah.
Notice that we're changing the scoring system as we go along. So that's now 3 maximum points there. Potentially, you could have got 3.
Yeah. We're moving with the market. That's what we're doing, Mahmood.
We're responding.
Now, question number 3. A point if you knew that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced they were stepping down as senior royals on Instagram. And Mahmood definitely gave you a hint there earlier when he was talking about the Queen and the role of social media. So a point for that one. What about number 4?
Number 4. Now, number 4, if you've got something close to the answer, we're happy. We're very relaxed individuals. The scheme that ran in August was Eat Out to Help Out. So in other words, that you couldn't buy alcohol, but you got some subsidy towards a meal. It worked very positively. I think I even took part in it myself, actually. So did you take part in it yourself, Jo?
No, to be honest, I think it was a great initiative. And if it helped the restaurants financially and the cafes, brilliant. But at the same time, they were telling us to eat less and get healthy. And
that contradictory message, yeah.
I couldn't get out as much because of lockdown and exercise and all of that. So there we go. If you just joined us and you wonder what on earth are we doing, we did the quiz and we did the questions, and now we're just going through some of the answers. So there's still time for you to play along and guess. But the scheme was, what was it? Eat Out to Help Out.
That's the baby.
Yeah. And question number 5 was Radio 1 refused to play Fairy Tale of New York due to its controversial lyrics. So the meaning of some of the lyrics have changed over time, the interpretation, the acceptability of the lyrics. And it was the guy from the Pogues. I've forgotten his name. Is it Sean?
Shane Gowan, is it? Shane Gowan? Shane Gowan.
Yeah, if you're watching and you know definitely what his name is, then stick that in the comments. And he said, look, he doesn't want to fall out about anyone, so it's fine. So that was the one. And it's also our favourite Christmas song here in the UK.
Well, that's been played a countless number of times on the radio, so bit of a surprise, that one. But, that's people. Now, this one I
changed the words or bleeped a bit, just merged it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. Now, this one I have to say did actually surprise me as well. So in terms of, again, it's another 2-pronged answer. 1.8 billion websites in the world. Every second it goes up by several thousand, so that's about 1.8 billion. And what really surprised me, there are apparently only 400 million of those websites are actually active. So if you look at that, that's a massive proportion of websites that are inactive, and that's about 25%. So that seems quite a low number, but that's the stat that seems to be shared by many other people as well.
Yeah. What was the source of that stat, Mahmood?
I think I got that on hosting.com, I also got it on, it wasn't quite, I think Wikipedia made reference to it as well. So I think I've got that off 2 or 3 different sites to cross-check that.
No, it's very credible. It's just really interesting how many people have got websites and don't use them. And if you are in Ripon and you've got websites that you don't use, then I don't know, maybe that could help my bandwidth just a little bit.
Come please, this is Do It For Joe.
Do it for me, yeah. The Do It For Joe bandwidth campaign. Thank you. Right, so hope you've enjoyed all of those questions. Let us know how you got on with the quiz, and we hope you enjoyed it. The thing is really that it has been a year of difference, of different challenge and different opportunity. And all of that has gone on. We've not really talked about COVID. We've not really touched on Brexit, hardly at all. But there's been some other really significant things that are going on out there, and some great opportunities as well for business. You just got to look for them and, innovate and step into that space and make it happen.
Absolutely. So in terms of, don't get overwhelmed by all this. We've talked about trends that have happened. We've talked about, digitisation. It's here. It's accelerated. We've talked about business disciplines, things that you should do to make your business effective. That hasn't really changed. Customers still want engagement. Customers still want to be looked after. Customers still want a good quality service. You've still got to price correctly. You've still got to control your costs. That's not changed at all. There's some social changes that's happened there. Take advantage of them, but I'll also tap into a resource. No references to who, i.e. me and Joe. And think about joining the Business Growth Club. There are details that we'll share here later on. Check it out. There's some free tips that come into your inbox every week. But, as we come to the end of 2020, certainly we wish you a fantastic end to 2020. It's not over yet. And we look forward to seeing you in 2021.
Yeah, we do. So have a wonderful new year. And Richard, if you're watching, maybe you're watching on replay, if you're not watching live, have an amazing 50th birthday. We've really enjoyed sharing these shows with you and you being here, and we'll see you in 2021. But Richard's birthday is on New Year's Eve. He's a regular viewer of the show. It's 50 on New Year's Eve, so it's going to be a quiet one, but we will raise a glass to you.
We'll raise a glass to you in Las Vegas style.
We will. So are we going to go out with the outro video then?
I think so. Okay.
Now,
shall we go for music, or shall we go for the show reel?
Show reel, I reckon. I
think so. Joe, we'll speak in a few minutes. Everybody else, have a brilliant end of 2020. Have a great start to 2021, and we'll see you guys next week.
Happy New Year. See you soon.
Happy New Year.
Hi there, welcome to today's Business Growth Club show. We are so pleased to have you here. The theme is growth marketing.
We're talking about actions and consequences today.
It's all about purpose.
Driving business growth with using KPIs.
We're talking money mindset.
The Growth Club, not to oversell it, but it's so well organised. So yeah, it was totally invaluable.
The Growth Club, coupled alongside with the Masters that I'm doing at Strategic Leadership at the moment, both of those things happening collectively have definitely transformed, and the Growth Club did have a massive impact for our business.
What is it that attracted you to come to the Growth Club in the first place? Let me just start off with that.
Well, because it was the two of you, basically.